Hi friends, this is Hector Combo. I looked at the news some time ago, a day ago, about 2 or 3 days ago. I noticed this Daily Mail article, Mars as you've never seen it before. Incredible images captured from the Martian surface by NASA rovers are remastered in stunning ultra-high definition by space fans. So it's an incredible story and the images are very captivating. Intuitively, when looking at the news, I have actively looked at the news for years, man. So you start looking at the pattern, and my intuition was telling me, oh, wow, NASA is releasing these stitched in together. So they were edited, manipulated. It doesn't mean that they're fake. All I'm telling you is that there are some manipulations to create these vistas. And that's the aspect of NASA. And there's the occult research, what it means to be, and the historical research of NASA. The reason I bring this to your attention is now the surface level of conspiracy theories in which you completely try to connect the dots of everything that is happening is a fun sport. But my personal opinion is if you have the intellectual acumen to do your own personal research, then I don't have to make this facile for you. In other words, I've done my own personal research and I'm only introducing you ideas, conclusions that I wish for the public to engage and challenge me, because I'm not going to hold anyone's hand and tell them what they ought to believe. All I am going to tell you is from my personal experience. When I first saw this article in the Daily Mail, I knew that they were going to be releasing more information about aliens or out of space and entities, right? Out from this world. Do I have any evidence to confirm what I am saying? No. I'm using my credit as a person. If you know me, I'm an authentic individual and I don't lie in camera. I am willing to cry and really express my feelings and my emotions as to who I am. So this is what I'm saying here. They are preparing the groundwork to release full-on fledged aliens are here to help us, but they're not going to do it just overnight. They're going to put their seeds, their limited hangout, and their truths. For anyone who is interested in knowing about this, there are so many resources, but don't start with Google. Start with startpage.com and ask the questions for yourself. Are aliens real? And if they're real, what are they? Are they here to help us? Or where do they come from? And do we assume that we all know what aliens are? Everyone expects them to be outer space, and they expect them to be highly evolved, compassionate creatures here to help us. It's an interesting cultural myth that we create. Here's another aspect of it. We could use this as a psychological experiment of the phenomena of paranormal beliefs. People will project their unconscious fear of the unknown onto the grays, onto demons, there's that aspect. Definitely there's that aspect. But there is a deeper level of understanding of what is aliens. And again, I'm speaking to my friends, speaking to my followers, speaking to people who actually are aware of the lie, the big conspiracy. The big conspiracy is to control and to limit our perception. So in this video is not the concrete evidence that aliens exist or do not exist. I am putting forward the idea that perhaps our perception is being prepared to accept certain things in society that we wouldn't be able to process before. So this article from the Daily Mail, Pentagon's UFO hunting department, we're not going to go through all the details because Daily Mail is a trash source of information, but there are some good buttons of wisdom here and there. There's a broken clock, right twice a day kind of thing here. The Pentagon's UFO department could not be forced to give reports to the public every 6 months. So this is talking about a department in the Pentagon that was supposedly closed. And, that's not the case. They lied. They made it seem like they were closed, but in reality, they kept on working without anyone paying attention. Pentagon's UFO hunting department was not disbanded in 2012 as stated and could not now give public reports every 6 months. Every 6 months. So this is going to be an ongoing thing where they release new pivotal information. And MIT claims it found vehicles not made on this earth, right? And for years, conspiracy researchers and outside thinkers were ridiculed, even to suggest that there is some type of alien civilization that is of higher understanding than we are. And this is not one video where I'm going to be a conspiracy Christian person and tell you that they're all evil, or a highly paranoid take on how everything is bad and everything is evil. No, think about the perception that is occurring before our eyes. Think about what's happening here. So this idea of the Pentagon discovering alien technology from Roswell, it's a popular Hollywood promoted idea, right? People are aware of that. There's ancient aliens, there's like aliens, right? So it's easy to discredit that when there are people who seem to be ludicrous and given the spotlight. They're the ones who usually carry on the water weight for all the popular minded individuals. Meaning, when you see a television program on the National Geographic, or when you see a ridiculous historical analysis from National Geographic or the History Channel, then you start thinking, wow, this is kind of ridiculous. Or where are these people getting their ideas? There's a there's a whole source behind that. Anyway, so the article goes, they also say they discovered objects we couldn't make ourselves in off-world vehicles not made on this earth. Officials who worked from the program have confirmed it continued. In 2017, the Pentagon admitting funding a UFO program, but said it ended in 2012. The move confirmed that such a program still exists. Now, follow up on this article from the Science Times. Pentagon UFO unit to disclose some of its findings to the public. Although the Pentagon has previously announced that they disbanded programs concerning unidentified flying objects, reports show that it is not the case. UFO programs apparently reside within the Office of Naval Intelligence, right? A Senate committee report last month represents the country intelligence expenditure for this coming year. In the report, an unidentifiable aerial phenomenon task force was mentioned. It is tasked to standardize collection and reporting regarding unexplained aerial vehicles. This task is about gathering intelligence that might be related to adversarial foreign governments. The UAPTF will assess the threats they possess to U.S. military assets and installations. The Select Committee on Intelligence Directive. The Select Committee on Intelligence recognizes the sensitivity of some information obtained by the UAPTF. However, it still requires the task force to submit report every 6 months. The Director of National Intelligence, the Secretary of Defense, and other relevant agency heads will be overseeing the project. The report. The New York Times also noted retired officials involved in the task force. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid hopes that the program could gather proof of vehicles from other worlds, although its main focus remains on keeping an eye on any other nation that gets its hand on new aircraft that could pose a threat to the United States. So definitely there are more than one application of what is happening. There are military industrial complex considerations when you're installing or creating a new committee or anything related to foreign intelligence or geopolitical relations or looking out at the sky. And there is a president, Jimmy Carter, I'm only giving you the surface of the historical research that I've made. Look it up for yourself, and we're going to do it together a little bit so that you understand that this is not just a bunch of things that I say to make myself feel cool with a bunch of strangers that I don't even talk to or relate with. Now, Jimmy Carter, before he went to office, he had mentioned that he promised people, the peanut farmer, he had mentioned people that once he was elected, that he was going to release the information about aliens. And there are quotes from him quotes, anecdotes, and some supposed quotes that mentioned that his belief had changed after he entered this presidency. In fact, he had said that aliens or the discovery of aliens could threaten national security. In other words, people discovered that there is a more powerful entity above the government, that they're going to not trust the government to control anything about their life. And Jimmy Carter files reports on UFO sighting history. So there is a lot of information, and there is a series of very well documented encounters that don't get a lot of mainstream news or like our attention, because our cultural perception, again, is massaged or limited to only understand what we are needed to understand. We're not here to look at the stars, wonder what they're about, and question what we are here for. No, we're here to work the factory. We're here to serve the state. We're here to serve the economy. We're here to serve the traditions of whatever the major monopoly of power is today. That's what we're here for. We're not here to question things. But when we actually discover that the government has been telling that they have evidence that there are aliens, then it is time for us to really consider aliens. That's how it works. Only when the government tells us it's fine to believe in anything, then it is okay for us to believe in whatever. So look about the history of Jimmy Carter and how he had UFO sightings. And so this is not just a couple of people from Alabama or North Carolina. And here, the recurring story is, you know, these rednecks, hillbillies, or good old boys, you know, they get kidnapped and, you know, they get sodomized or they get probed by the aliens. So this must be completely ridiculous, right? There must be nothing to it. And why can't we apply the same argument when the government tells us that there are aliens or that they are actively looking for aliens? And the reason I'm making this video is not to concretely give you the expose of all the aliens are real. No, this is an exercise on live action, real time, looking at the news, making a point of it, remembering and seeing, oh, okay, so they are telling us that there are aliens or that they're spending their time discovering alien artifacts, or and they will give us a report every 6 months. So they're preparing us to what they're going to discover. They've made an announcement. And do you really trust a Pentagon or a building that has the form of a pentagram? And do you trust the Pentagon when they supposedly lost trillions of dollars before the 9/11 attacks, missing money? I mean, do you think that it always just so happens every 4 years there's a new set of people that come into the office? Or do you think that there are established employees of the federal government who sit on their office and will find any way to expedite their corruption when they have the available tools and no one is held accountable? Okay, so the 9/11 missing from 2.3 Rumsfeld. So the very same, I guess, massive institution that is going to tell us that, you know, the little Lamaus are actually real. And I bet you a bottom dollar here that they're gonna really be here to help us. You know, these aliens, they're really friendly guys, you know. Anyway, so let's listen to the adversaries closer to home. It's the Pentagon's bureaucracy. And that's what we're dealing with, the Pentagon's bureaucracy. These departments work within the guidelines of the Pentagon's bureaucracy, and you think that people are just going to sit and make their own reports and really follow the truth just because they're working for government? You're going to be surprised.
2001, you'll notice Donald Rumsfeld made a speech that the Pentagon had lost almost $3 trillion worth of unaccounted for expenses. Then you can see what happened in September 11th and notice that that story disappeared. I was going to say terrifying. There could be a large cover-up going on, and
You think so? You think so? You think so? According to some estimates, we cannot track 2.3 trillion in transactions, Rumsfeld admitted. So the story is, it broke out in September 10th, or days before. There was an ongoing scandal, and I'm only putting it forth here so you can look it up. There's actual mainstream reports on this. 8,000 for every woman and man, for every man and woman and child. If they didn't lose this amount of money, trillions of dollars, then every individual could have received $8,000. Okay, so that's just one aspect, right? So the bureaucracy in the Pentagon is the issue. They are the ones creating all these problems, or at the very least, if let's not say, you know, let's not be biased here, they're the ones who have lost $2.3 trillion and no one got in trouble because people forgot and the news just carried over. All right, so this is just one aspect. What does this have to do with aliens? All right, Pentagon computers have been discovered to have child pornography. Pentagon computers, child pornography. And not a lot of people got in trouble. Some got their troubles. Others just kind of went along. Pentagon workers found to have downloaded child pornography. House bill targets use of Pentagon networks for child pornography. So as you go into, so the first article, June 23rd, 2010, this is from Start Page. Use Start Page or use other alternative search entries. Forget Google. They're the ones that are part of the military industrial complex. They're not going to service you the truth. Why would they? They're part of the problem. And then this other article, House bill targets use of Pentagon networks for child pornography. So this is from The Hill, and this is 9 years later, 2019. And the problem started way before. House bill targets use of Pentagon networks for child pornography. Representative Abigail Spanberger and Mark Medow introduced legislation on Tuesday meant to halt the use of Department of Defense computers networks by users for sharing or procuring pornographic images of children, right? And there's a deeper story behind that, and they're trying to circumvent the issue by targeting the networks itself. Here is the other aspect of that. So if the Pentagon's bureaucracy can lose 2.3 trillion of dollars and they're not elected, I mean, they're not elected by any voluntary action. We're not here knowing every single name. And, you know, there are revelations such as Edward Snowden and different types of revelations that show that the people who are running the surveillance state, whether they operate in fusion centers or whether they operate in the Pentagon, they will use their power to surveil their loved ones. Okay, so let's look up at that. Pentagon employee uses power to target former ex-girlfriend. And this is a common story. Employees from the IRS, employees from different organizations that have power, who will target individuals in their personal life who have completely not bowed down to them, you know. Former Pentagon analyst pleads guilty to sharing classified information. Some use spying powers to snoop on lovers. I'm only giving you an illustration of the cultural identity or the cultural aspect of what happens in the Pentagon. I am not going through every single detail or information that convinces you that aliens are real. That's not my point. My point is whether you believe aliens are real or not, or whether you think they're demons or not, that's not my job to conclude for you. My job as someone who follows the news and is actively participating in breaking through the lie of this information, my job is to show you the patterns, to show you the inconsistencies in how they're preparing your perception to allow things. I'm here to remind you too of these old buried cases that everyone forgets, and now that the Pentagon has allowed for a program to report to the public every 6 months on the development that they discovered aliens, we're going to get the truth, right, guys? We're really going to go out for the next stage of human evolution. Or are we going to just put on the blinders and be told what we want to know and hear by the people in control so that we think, oh, we really are getting closer to something bigger. We are evolving as a humanity. Think about all the things that have been riddled against these conspiracy theorists who all of a sudden are now conspiracy factualists. And it's no fun, I'll tell you, because I'm not even expecting an apology from people. Oh, wow, Hector, you're right about those aliens. Oh, how, hey, Hector, you're right about those pedophiles. Oh, wow, Hector, you're right about those never-ending wars. Oh, wow, Hector, you're right about the Federal Reserve. It doesn't even matter if I'm right. It doesn't even matter that. The problem is that people will carry on and they will forget about the past 5 to 10 years. They will focus on the moment with some fantastic news from the Pentagon. The Pentagon has some fantastic news, guys. Forget about the pedophiles. Forget about the never-ending wars. Forget about how you are totally disempowered and every economic pressure is beset against you. Cultural, political, economic pressures all beset against the individual. But hey, at least that conspiracy theory you told your friends about is true. Do you feel good now? You see how this stuff works? It's not necessarily just about the evidence. It's not just about the narrative. It's about the impression that the story leaves in you. It's about the perception that is massaged or limited. It's about the eye half shut and not opening up. When we do open our eyes, we're blinded by the light and we reject it, and we allow for these bureaucratic parasites to continue to massage our perception so that we can say to each other, wow, we were right. We were really right. Anyways, carrying on to this short story, I wanted to update you with this because this is going to be an ongoing issue that I'm going to be focused on. But at the very first, I want to leave you with this story. The Select Committee on Intelligence Directive. The Select Committee on Intelligence recognizes the sensitivity of some information obtained by the UAPTF. However, it still requires this task force to submit a report every 6 months. Anyways, this month, Republican Senator Marco Rubio expressed interest in having Naval Intelligence prepare a public report. In an interview with CBS 4, let's check it out. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence acting chairman emphasized that we have things flying over our military bases and places where we are conducting military exercises. And then, do you remember that there was these CBS? Let's find out what these people have to say, because you know the mainstream media, CBS, they have the truth, and me, just a random guy. You know, I don't know anything.
He spoke to Senator Rubio. Jim, perhaps on a much lighter note, Senator Rubio wants naval intelligence to prepare a public report on UFOs. What's that all about?
So, you know, as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Rubio very quietly, just about a month or so ago, attached into a bill that's working its way through the Senate, this idea of wanting to know some of the aeronautical, differences that we're sort of seeing. What we call UFOs, he doesn't want to use that term, the Navy doesn't use that term, but he says there are objects flying over military bases, encountering civilian airliners, encountering military jets, that they just cannot explain these phenomena. And he wants to know, now, is it from another galaxy? Is it from China? These are the questions that he's trying to answer. And he says there's no reason to keep this information classified. He wants the Office of Naval Intelligence to issue a report, go through everything, release it publicly, and let's try to get some answers. So
let me get this straight. Let me get this straight, because you don't get this, you don't get the whole context of what is unfolding. You won't get the history, you won't get everything. So during Cold War 2.0, where China cannot be trusted and the United States, it's competing and trying to overcome the legacy systems. Remember, the National Security Committee on Artificial Intelligence. All of this stuff is related. It doesn't seem random. It's related. Okay, so the National Security on Artificial Intelligence Committee, they said that legacy technologies, legacy ideas of freedom are preventing the United States from overcoming and beating out China. So on a Cold War 2.0 spectrum, do you think that as Cold War 0.1 in the past, when Russia and the United States were out competing with each other, and they were using psychological propaganda and black propaganda and literally using lies and anything possible to outcompete their enemy, do you really believe that Marco Rubio and this intelligence committee are actually going to produce any meaningful, verifiable evidence that is truthful, meaningful, purposeful, and is going to help you individually? Or is it going to be another story that will allow for the powers that shouldn't be to continue to hold and consolidate power and use it as an excuse and distract us? So that's the thing we're going to be pointing our attention to as this breaks through and continues to develop. Because the more that they tell us that they're aliens, the more that they tell us and confirm every single conspiracy that we were not allowed to talk about, because how can you be crazy? People believing in extraterrestrial life forms or a plethora of beings all throughout the universe, and that we're not an accident, and that there is something meaningful throughout this existence. Ah, man, that's some gobbledygook. You need to serve the state. You need to just obey and submit and allow for the bureaucrats behind the machinery of power to tell you what to think. Now it's time for us to really believe in what they have to say. Anyway, that's the update, the news roundup update. We took a little bit of a paranormal turn, but I'm leaving you this as homework or as something that you should look into. There's a conspiracy, and this is factual in case, and there's levels to it, in where in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, and the 50s, the United States government used the conspiracy of allowing people to believe erroneous beliefs. In other words, allowing or funding and promulgating the idea that there was visitors in this planet, Roswell, 1947, and other cover-ups such as that. And it's easy to believe that it's just aliens, but it's harder to do the research and to notice it's a multiplicity, multivariant, complicated issue. The government had used the idea of UFOs as a cover, as a camouflage, to unleash and experiment their experimental stealth flight bombers. This is verifiable information, but that's just this is surface level of understanding. There's more to it. So look into that and think about what is happening, Cold War 2.0, and think about how the people who are behind these bureaucracies are not necessarily, some people are not going to tell you about the $2.3 trillion that they lost. Is there a department that teaches you or tells you about all the money that they lost? Is there a department that talks about all the people they've murdered? And is there a department that actively tries to help people of sexual abuse and sex trafficking? You know, is there a bureaucracy in charge of that in the Pentagon? Is there a department that deals with that? You know, there must be a reason why they do it. You know that the government never gives you anything free. And if they do give you something, it's because it helps them at the end of the day. This is your friend Hector Combo asking you to think outside the box, forget about confirmation bias, think beyond conspiracies, and investigate your own psychology. And then once you're able to analyze yourself, deconstruct your being, then you'll be able to pursue all this stuff and not be taken for a fool. You know, this worst thing ever is to be taken for a fool, have your time wasted, and realize that you were looking at the wrong thing. Again, I hope this is an informative video for you. If you have any questions or you think that I am focusing on the wrong thing, please let me know. It's more important for us to discuss it together than just to let it pass by, forget about it, and then somehow be reminded through the authoritative sources. Until then, bye-bye.